Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome back, True Crime Army. I am your host, Margot, and this is Military Murder, a show where I break down true crime cases involving military members, veterans, and their families, all with one goal in mind, to remind you to remain vigilant always. All right, everyone, I'm so sorry that I skipped last week. I was doing my annual tour and I got really distracted and I just had a really hard time getting back online, but here I am. Now, today's episode is one that I didn't expect to have to make because this case, the case that I'm talking about today, already had an ending. At least that's what we thought. This is the case of Letecia Stauch. Remember her, stepmom out of Colorado? I released a 2-part episode on the heinous murder that this woman committed. And I released that back in September of 2022. That's over 3.5 years ago. Well, guess what? After the verdict and after the sentence, Letecia appealed. Of course, we always expect that defendants are going to appeal. But what I didn't expect was for her appeal to succeed, but it did. And it succeeded not because there was additional evidence or a new suspect or a new anything. She was successful because of a perceived juror bias. And because of that, her conviction has been completely undone, wiped away, reversed. And once you understand what happened here, you're going to see trials in a completely different light, and you'll begin to understand how a case can be won and lost before opening statements even begin, because the integrity of a trial can hinge on a single decision. If you want to re-listen to my episodes on Letecia Stauch, both parts 1 and part 2, I am going to link them in the show notes, so be sure you check them out there. Join me today as I review the appellate decision in the case of People versus Letecia Stauch and where that leaves us now. Now, let's dig in.
Military murder is an independent project and is not endorsed by the Department of Defense or any military component. The views expressed are those of the host. The content of this podcast is not meant to be legal or medical advice. Warning, this episode contains graphic details of murder and is not suitable for young listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Before I begin, let's recap. This case began on January 27, 2020 in Colorado Springs, Colorado, when 11-year-old Gannon Stauch was reported missing. At the time, Gannon was living with his father, Albert, his stepmother, Letecia Stauch, and his younger sister. Early in the evening, Letecia called 911. Her voice sounded controlled. Her stepson hadn't returned home, but something felt off to her. She told dispatch that Gannon just left the house and never came back. It was January in Colorado. The sun had already set. It was cold and very dangerous for a young boy. So immediately, the community mobilized, and I'm talking search teams, volunteers, law enforcement, and let's not forget the Facebook community involvement in this case. Because when a child disappears, time matters. Every second counts. And so we try to mobilize people using social media. But almost just as quickly as Letecia Stauch reported her son missing, the narrative that Letecia told began to unravel because for whatever reason, the facts that she was giving, they kept changing and not just tiny differences. At first, she said that Gannon went to a friend's house. Then she says that he was abducted. Then she elaborated on the abduction and she said that there was a man and a carpet installer and a gun and an assault and a kidnapping. But at the end of the day, none of what she was saying could make sense and none of it could be verified. Neighbors didn't see anything. Cameras didn't capture anything remotely close to what she said. And the physical evidence, it didn't support any version of Letecia's story. Instead, investigators began to notice a pattern. They noticed that Letecia Stauch changed her story to cover her tracks. And when authorities searched inside the house, like really searched, not just like, hey, let's see if he's hiding anywhere, they found something. And that something was blood. But not just blood, there was a section of carpet that was not only removed, but it was hidden, like the bed had been moved to cover that missing carpet patch. That's when investigators knew early on that this was likely a murder investigation. But first, they couldn't just assume it was a murder investigation. They had to find Gannon, hopefully alive, but they were thinking they were probably going to find him dead. And almost as soon as Letecia made that call, everything accelerated. Search warrants, interviews, digital forensics, and while things were moving quickly, Gannon was still missing. And days turned into weeks, turned into months. And Letecia was feeling the pressure, but she was still clinging on and claiming her innocence, even going as far as doing a TV interview. Despite all of social media calling her out and demanding that she tell authorities where she put Gannon, she decided to talk to a news outlet. And I just want to do like a quick recap, and I want you to listen to that interview again. Here it is.
You are?
I am Letecia Stauch, which is Gannon's stepmother.
You've been a part of the investigation since the very first time. You were the last person to see him. Is that right?
Correct.
What did you see when you last saw him?
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about anything with the case. I would more so be willing to talk about how the community needs to have faith and continue to work together and not make these false accusations, like the things that have been said that I've disappeared from the community. I haven't been there to help, but there's lots of reasons behind that.
Reasons like death threats, right?
Right. Death threats are one of them. My family's getting lots of death threats. We counted over 20-some death threats already. Two, my husband's ex-wife is living in our home, and of course I'm not coming home to do these things and to help with the family when I was kind of like told I couldn't. And then many other things that happened with the El Paso County Police Department, you know, and in doing the investigation I was told I wasn't compliant.
Reacting online to rumors about you with this source.
Oh yes, wow. The rumors have gotten so bad. I pretty much have been told at least 10 different ways that these people have these conspiracy theories. I guess they watch a lot of law shows and maybe they have all these theories on how Gannon is dead. And that's what they're saying. So I'm like, why are you saying Gannon is dead? He is not dead. We are going to find Gannon. And that's the main goal that we all have. My family has. Just because you haven't seen us, we have that same goal. And we've been out searching. My aunt has been out searching. My family has been out searching. We all have been doing that together so that we could protect each other.
How does it feel when not only you have a lost child who you are in care of, but then people blaming you for that child not being there?
You know, I'm just ready for Gannon to come home. Most importantly, for him to see his family. But second, I am going to be so ecstatic when I'm able to say to people that I hope they have a really sincere apology for all these theories that have came out online, for all the things they said that I have done or people have done. And I just want everyone to know that we're going to find Gannon. And I love him so much. I've helped taking care of him for so long.
Well, weeks later, someone in Florida found a suitcase under a bridge. And inside that suitcase, they found Gannon's body. But how did he get to Florida from Colorado, right? The investigation revealed that Letecia shot Gannon in their home in Colorado. Then she reported him missing. Then she transported his body from Colorado to Florida, where she disposed of him. Once Gannon's body was found, Letecia could no longer hide. Colorado issued an arrest warrant, and she was charged with first-degree murder. She was also charged with first-degree murder after deliberation, first-degree murder of a child under 12 by a person in a position of trust, tampering with a deceased body, and tampering with evidence. Letecia was arrested on March 2nd, 2020. Well, it would take 3 years, but in March of 2023, her trial began, and it lasted 5 weeks. At trial, the prosecution built a timeline, putting all the pieces into place. And the defense, well, they went in a completely different direction. They didn't deny involvement, not entirely. Instead, they argued that she was not guilty by reason of insanity. Specifically, the defense presented that Letecia suffered from dissociative identity disorder. Letecia's team argued that she wasn't in control because her mind was fractured. And murdering Gannon didn't occur when she was of a clear mind. Instead, it occurred during a moment when she suffered a psychological break. Now, if you watched the trial, you might have worried for a split second, oh my gosh, will her defense work? Well, don't worry, it didn't work. The jury didn't buy 1 second of it. they found her guilty on every single count, and she was sentenced on May 8th, 2023. And we were all relieved to learn that Letecia would spend the rest of her life in prison without the possibility of parole. But not just that, she got consecutive sentences for the additional charges, which is like, not only are we locking the door and throwing away the key, but we are going to burn the key and then dispose of the ashes in the ocean, right? Well, after Letecia's trial, everyone knew that there would be appeals, right? But usually, it's one of those things where defense attorneys are reviewing the trial transcript to see where they could potentially appeal. Was there an issue with the presentation of the evidence, an overruled hearsay objection, maybe even an improper closing argument that could save their client? But in this case, the appeal was brewing from the moment the judge seated the official jury. That's right. But the thing about this case is that I think, in retrospect, that the prosecution didn't realize how serious one of their winning objections during jury selection and the judge's ruling, they didn't realize how critical that would be. This episode was made possible by Gusto. Now, let me be real with you for just 1 second. One of the parts of running a business that I dread the most, it's all the back-end admin stuff. Like the creative side, I love it. Researching, writing, recording, even editing. All of that really lights me up. But the paperwork, contractor payments, tax forms, onboarding, making sure everything is done correctly, it's a lot. And there have definitely been moments where I've thought, if I could go back in time, I would have set up a way better system from day one. Because the bigger your business gets, the more complicated it gets. And that's why tools like Gusto exist. Gusto is an online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from absolutely anywhere. If you've hired or you're about to hire, even if you're hiring your first contractor or team member, this is where things can either get messy or get streamlined. Gusto helps with automatic payroll tax filing, simple direct deposits, benefits like 401ks and workers' comp, all the things that normally feel overwhelming, especially when you're trying to do it all by yourself. And what I really like is that it saves time with built-in tools such as offer letters, onboarding docs, direct deposits, all completely automated. And because it's automated, you're not chasing paperwork at 10 p.m. wondering if you did something wrong. Plus, if you ever hit a situation where you're like, wait, am I handling this correctly? You get access to certified HR experts. That alone can save you from some major headaches. If you're serious about growing your business or even just getting organized, this is one of those foundational systems that makes everything easier moving forward. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/MMP and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/MMP. One more time, gusto.com/MMP.
Now streaming. Disney Plus invites you to go behind the scenes with Taylor Swift in an exclusive 6-episode docuseries.
I wanted to give something to the fans that they didn't expect. The only thing left is to close the book.
The end of an era. And don't miss Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, the final show, featuring for the first time the Tortured Poets Department. Now streaming, only on Disney Plus.
From mid-2023 through early 2026, in the chambers of the appellate courts, Letecia's case was making its rounds. And on April 2nd, 2026, after the Colorado Court of Appeals reviewed Letecia's appeal, they issued a decision. And the headline read, "Conviction reversed, new trial ordered." Oh my gosh. When Haley Gray sent me the news article, I couldn't believe my eyes. So let's break it down. In Letecia's appeal, she raised multiple issues: search warrant issues, evidence issues, testimony issues, jury selection issues. But guess what? Appellate courts are strategic. If there is one issue that will sink the entire case, they will focus on that issue. And then they don't even have to bother with the other issues, especially when their first order of business is going to kick the entire case back to the lower court, right? Well, the issue that flipped this case on its head had to do with jury selection. You see, prospective jurors have to fill out a jury questionnaire. And it's a document that collects basic and not so basic information about a potential juror, right? They want to know where they work. Have they ever been victims of a crime? Or did they have family members who were victims of crimes? Have they ever been convicted of a crime? Do they have any close ties to parties in the case? The attorneys, the judges, that type of stuff. Well, in the course of filling out the survey, there was a prospective juror by initials MB who filled out his questionnaire, and he was truthful, and he said that his son-in-law worked as a deputy district attorney in the same office as the people who were prosecuting the case. Not only that, but the district attorney who was actually prosecuting the case was actually like his son-in-law's supervisor or raider or something like that, right? Now, let's pause here because that may not sound like a big deal, but that's a huge deal. This is not the type of relationship where you're saying, hey, listen, everyone, my fourth cousin who I saw once in a picture who lives 4 states down is a police officer. That's not that type of scenario, right? This juror or prospective juror was saying, my child's spouse, an immediate family member, works directly for the prosecuting authority. Well, apparently no one who was prosecuting this case or judging this case knew Colorado law well, because in Colorado, this is a big deal. This type of close relationship is a big deal. And the issue for jurors is typically when you're seating a jury, the prosecutor and the defense attorney, they want to know, can this juror set aside any bias that they might have, and can they be neutral for the purposes of this case? But Colorado understands that even if someone believes they can be fair, there are certain relationships that create unavoidable bias. And the Colorado law doesn't ask, can you set that bias aside, right? It actually says, in layman's terms, nah, man, we are not even going to ask you to try to set aside your bias, right? This is called implied bias. And Colorado law says that if there is a relationship within the 3rd degree by blood, adoption, or marriage related to a defendant or to any attorney of record or attorney engaged in the trial of the case, the trial court is required to excuse them because they cannot be rehabilitated. And if we want to play ball fairly under the statute, a juror with this type of relationship must be removed. No if, ands, or buts about it. There's no discretion. Seems pretty simple, right? Seems like the defense attorney, the prosecuting attorney, and even the judge should know that this is a law. Well, it should have been simple. But guess what? In Letecia's case, the trial judge knew that a DA's father-in-law was in the jury or potential jury, and that judge didn't act to remove the juror, even though the defense attorney objected. Yeah, the defense did challenge the juror for cause, but the judge denied the challenge. And that denial, even before the case started, changed everything. Because that juror went on to sit on the jury and deliberated about Letecia's fate. Now, I want you to understand that there are 2 legal concepts here regarding jury selection. There are 2 reasons why a juror could be booted from the potential jury pool. The first is called a challenge for cause. This juror cannot be fair and there is actual bias. And if the law agrees that this person is biased for whatever reason, that juror is removed automatically, which that should have happened here, right? Well, there is another type of challenge for a juror, and that is called a peremptory challenge. These are very limited, but they are strategic because they say that you can use a peremptory challenge to strike a juror without explanation. You just be like, that person looked at me the wrong way, strike, you're out. And every side has a limited number of these types of challenges. I do want to point out that there is a caveat to a peremptory challenge. You cannot use this type of challenge to discriminate, but for any other reason, you can use it. Now, the thing about peremptory challenges is that you don't have to use all of them. So the prosecution has some of them, the defense has some of them, and let's say, for example, they have 10. They can use 5 and they don't have to use the rest of the other 5. They can just not use them at all, right? Now, in this particular case involving Letecia Stauch, her defense attorney and her defense team actually had leftover peremptory challenges. So now that I told you the 2 types of challenges, Leticia's defense counsel challenged juror MB for cause, and the judge denied the challenge for cause. Now, the defense attorney could have used his peremptory challenge, but they decided not to. And I want you to know that that distinction matters because Leticia's defense appealed on perceived juror bias and judicial error, right? Now, the prosecution during the appeal clapped back, saying that the defense could have used one of their leftover peremptory challenges that they had at the trial level to get rid of juror MB, but the appellate court indicated that the defense or that the onus was not on the defense to use their peremptory challenges to correct judicial error. And this is where we now layer in the concept of structural error. Most trial errors, they get reviewed for impact, right? Would the outcome have been the same with or without the error? But structural errors, they are different and they don't get analyzed in that same sense because structural errors corrupt the trial itself. And one of the clearest examples of structural error is a biased juror. The court said it directly. A biased juror, quote, pervades and infects the entire framework of the trial, end quote. Now that language is powerful because it means even if the evidence was overwhelming, even if the verdict felt inevitable as it did in Leticia's case, the trial at the core was unfair. And if the trial wasn't fair, the conviction cannot stand. And that's the part that just feels so heavy. As I was preparing this episode, of course, I was heavily invested in the close to 60-page opinion. And what really got me was that you might think that the trial judge didn't know what he was doing. But in the record, it does reflect that he felt something was off about it. He actually took the weekend to sleep on the issue of what to do with this particular juror. When discussing juror MB, the judge said, quote, then this is at the trial level, still at the trial when they were trying to seat the jury. The judge said, quote, I'm going to circle back to that one too. Probably what I'm going to do is not excuse juror MB at this point in time and think about it over the weekend and see where we are. I tend to agree that I don't think it's a statutory cause, and I didn't hear anything else about that fact creating an issue or conflict or something else. I don't run across those sets of facts very often, so I just need to think about that one, and it may be that I decide on it next week, end quote. So he did think on it, and he did decide that the juror was going to sit, and the juror did sit throughout the weeks of trial, and he actually deliberated. So this isn't one of those cases where he was an alternate juror. He ended up sitting and deciding on the case. So what now? Well, the appellate court ordered a retrial, which means that they have to do the entire trial all over again. And that's a big deal. That means that they remanded the case, and we're going to have to, or the prosecution is going to have to call all the witnesses, call all of the experts, and do all of that all over again. Think about it this way. Have you ever written a paper or a memorandum or even an email or even a text message, and just as you were ready to finish it up, you somehow deleted it? You lost the entire thing, and your computer somehow did not even save it. Boom. There goes hours, days, or even weeks worth of work, gone in a matter of seconds. And that's what this is. It's a complete delete. It's a complete do-over.
What happened to her?
Dad? On April 17th, the year's scariest movie arrives.
Let the mummification ritual begin.
Audiences are calling Lee Cronin's The Mummy glorious edge-of-your-seat horror. Terrifying from beginning to end.
I really miss being a part of the family.
And an insanely scary ride. Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Only in theaters April 17th. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
But wait, before I move on from the appeal, I do want you to know that not everyone agreed with the majority. This was a 2-1 case. There is one judge that dissented, basically stating, if the defense had the opportunity to remove a juror using a peremptory strike and chose not to, they have made a decision and shouldn't get a second chance later. His concern was that defense attorneys might now opt to leave a biased juror on the panel on purpose with the hope that they could trigger a reversal on appeal. It's a fair analysis, but the majority didn't see evidence of that here. And also the question lies in, well, the prosecution could have also used their peremptory challenge as well, right? So now that the conviction is gone, the case is remanded and we're left with two paths. Option 1, the state still has the opportunity to appeal the appellate decision up, right? They can petition the Colorado Supreme Court. And if the Colorado Supreme Court agrees to hear the case, the Supreme Court could reverse this decision, meaning that they would leave Letecia's conviction intact, or they could agree with the lower appellate court and affirm it, forcing a retrial. Or, option 2, the state could simply proceed immediately to a retrial. Regardless of the outcome, what matters most is that the evidence has not changed, but the defense, well, they now have a great advantage. They have an upper hand because they can use time and fading memories to their advantage. However, if there is a new trial, the new jurors wouldn't be flat out told that this was a retrial, but many parts of the original trial could come in to help refresh a witness's recollection or to discuss a prior consistent or inconsistent statement. The real question is, if there is a retrial, will Letecia Stauch still plead not guilty by reason of insanity? I mean, who knows? News 5 KOA caught up with Gannon's father after the appellate decision was announced. And while Al Gannon didn't go on camera, he did make the following statement, quote, "After hearing the news today about the decision by the Court of Appeals, I am truly torn by the emotions of potentially having to repeat this process. My resolve, however, has never been greater. My desire for justice has never wavered, and most importantly, my love for Gannon will never fail. I am reminded daily that Gannon is standing next to God in heaven and together looking down on all of us. As Pastor Paul and my mama recommended so many times throughout this process, let's go to the Psalms. I declare Psalm 23 over my family, all of the attorneys on this case, and everyone who has shown love and support for Gannon. The end result will be the same, and although we do not wish to journey this path again, we stand with those who will handle this case and believe wholeheartedly in their ability to finish this once and for all," end quote. Wow, that's really powerful. He's like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's let this be over. My son is gone. Let's get justice and let justice be final. As for the DA, a spokesperson from the DA's office said they are disappointed in the appellate court's decision and are considering whether to appeal, but they are nonetheless prepared to retry the case. Thank you so much, True Crime Army, for listening in here. As I was recording this episode, I realized just how long I have been doing this podcast. I mean, I've been producing it long enough to not only cover a case on the show from its inception, but then also long enough to be around for the appeal and possibly the retrial. Wow. I just want to say thank you because without you, I wouldn't be able to continue doing this show. I hope you'll keep tuning in because I also have an update on a very huge case out of Fort Hood. It's the case of Gregory Morales. Can you believe that after all these years, there has finally been an arrest? Actually, not just one arrest, but 2 arrests. Yes, I have that update and so much more lined up for you, so make sure you stay tuned. My main source for today's episode is the Colorado Court of Appeals opinion. Military Murder is a Mama Margot production. The music was created by Ty-Ops. Until next time, remember, you never really know what someone is capable of, so remain vigilant always. You have a fabulous week, and I'll keep digging to bring you another military murder story next time.
Mama's working on her podcast. I don't want to.
Stitch Fix. Shopping is hard. Let's talk about it.
I don't have time to shop for clothes.
I have to buy everything in 3 sizes to find one that fits. They know me at the post office.
Workout wear is my only wear.
Stitch Fix makes shopping easy. Just show your size, style, and budget, and your stylist sends personalized looks right to your door. No subscription required, plus free shipping and returns.
Oh, wow, that was easy.
Stitch Fix, online personal styling for everyone. Take your style quiz today at stitchfix.com.